This evening, we are very happy to be able to invite Dr. Alan Seaman to come and talk to us. I think a lot of people in Hong Kong are rather familiar with Dr. Seaman's name and probably would have seen him lots of times in the papers, on the TV, and usually in very eye-catching costumes on special occasions. And he's also the founder of the Lan Kwai Fong Group. In 2004, shortly after he took over as the chairman of Ocean Park, the park has raised the number of visitors and generated record profits. If I'm to reveal all his achievements, I think definitely will be using up the whole evening. So, okay, I will stop here. And Dr. Seaman, please.
I decided, actually it was 13, I wanted to work in a restaurant on the weekends because I had spare time between my schoolwork and my newspapers. So on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was working in a steakhouse restaurant, cleaning tables. And at 14, you weren't supposed to work, but I got all dressed up, and I told them I was 16 years old, which was the legal age. And so, don't tell anyone. And I got a job, and I was earning $25 a week from that with tips. And so I was really earning like $50 or $60 Canadian a week. My teachers were earning $35 a week. And so I had more money than my teachers at the age of 14. At 16, I bought my own car. I was the only one in the school that had drove his own car because I had earned enough money. But it taught me independence at a very, very young age. And I was in what they called the brain class, the top class in school, except I hated to study. I loved to use my mind. I love to challenge myself, and really by common logic, just kind of thinking out of the box. And I've done that all my life. When teachers used to, well, one day I used to play the percentages, used to play the odds, and think, well, I'm supposed to write an essay for a book that you had read. Now I thought there's no way the teacher could read every book. So I made up a title called Black as the Night. And I wrote an essay and got a B+, on a book that didn't exist. I made it up because I figured there's no way they can read every book. And that's what really taught me about life in the real world. And I got very good marks. I went through school, and I graduated and decided to go to university, and I had enough marks to go to university at night. But I decided I already had the taste of money. I already had the taste of working. So I decided I want to work. And I was looking for a job. I was looking through the classifieds for a job. And in school, in secondary school, high school, they don't really teach you about the outside world, the business world, which you have all gone to school. And so I was thinking, what can I do? And I was looking through the classified, and there was a job, a company looking for a shipper, a lingerie company, ladies' lingerie, looking for a shipper. Now, to a 16-year-old, I had no idea what a shipper was, but lingerie, I kind of knew what it was. So it sounded very, very interesting. So I went to apply for the job, and sure enough, I got the job, and it was really shipping ladies' underwear in a stock room. But I worked there for a year and kind of just understanding the business. The one thing I saw was the salesmen were all working on commission, and they all came with their big fat cigars. They're all working on commission. They'd say, how much did we ship today, Sonny? And I'd tell them what they shipped because they got their commission checks. So I thought, I want to be a salesman. I was 17 years old. And so I got all dressed up in a suit and a tie, and I went to apply. There was a job. The largest dress company in Canada, in Montreal, was looking for a dress salesman. I had no experience, no idea about selling ladies' dresses or even what a lady's dress looked like. And so, but I got all dressed up, and I went to apply for the job. In those years, there was no internet, no computers. It was a totally different thing. So I applied, and during the interview, every criteria the ad wanted, I had experience. I was the perfect candidate. I just made it up, I figured if they check, what's the worst thing that happens? I don't get the job, right? And but I took a chance. My whole life is taking what I call calculated risks. You think about it, the downside, as long as you don't hurt anyone, as long as you're honest and you don't hurt anybody, you take a chance. And that's exactly what I did. And so I got there was a perfect candidate, and they said, "What's your salary?" And my salary was $60 a week because I was in a stock room, you know. But I said, "I've been selling ladies' lingerie." And I said, "It's salesman, I figured, earns around $200 a week. Going from 60 to 200 is a big jump in salary." And I thought to myself, there's no way I'm getting this job. And they looked at me and they said, "Okay," because I was the perfect candidate. There was no flaws in my application. So they said, "When can you start? How fast can you start?" And I almost died, because at 17, I didn't think you can just triple your salary, more than triple your salary. And I thought, well, it's not cool if I said, "Let me think about it, and I'll call you in the morning if I'll accept the job," because I thought you don't just say, "I'll take it," right? And you make them wait. And so the next that night I didn't sleep very well, because I kept going through that telephone call, "I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it." And then the next morning I called, I said, "I'll take the job." And I started working there, and I said it'll take me a couple of weeks to just understand the difference from lingerie to ladies' dresses. Now, I had no idea about what a dress was, and about 2 weeks later they put me with my first client, they'd buy the dresses for the shops in Canada, and I held up a dress, and they said, and the customer said to me, "What fabric is that?" I had no idea. But as a salesman, you have to always speak with authority. Otherwise, you lose the customer if they can't trust you. So I held up the dress, and they said, "What fabric is it?" And I thought fast, and I said, "It's a new fabric we just developed." And they said, "Oh," and I said, "It's called Fabrica." And I just came up with a name, Fabrica. And they looked at it, and, "Oh, feels very nice." And that's when I learned what selling was all about, just as long as you had an answer. But then later I also learned that it's very important as a salesman, you want to service your customer. You want to be able to talk to them, to tell them what styles are selling well, what's good. And that's exactly what I did. I started to sell with customers and tell them that this is selling that, so they'll come back to you. If you give customers good service, if you talk to them in the right way, and you gain their trust, which is the most important thing, you gain their trust, they will come back to you. And that's exactly what happened. So I was young, and of course the girls liked me, and I had a very, very good relationship, and I started to do very, very well in selling. And of course, at the age of 19, I always set goals in my life, and I always set my standards very, very high. I've said this many, many times. You may have heard it, but I'll say it again. In my world, there's only first class. There's no business class. If you aim for first, you'll get to business class. If you aim for business class, you'll get to economy. If you aim for economy, you'll go broke. So challenge yourself, no matter what you're doing, even if you're in the police force, even if you want to advance, you want to go up. Look at who's at the top. You want that job. What is going to make you want to get there? And if you put pressure on yourself in the right way so you can deal with it, you will then be able to to think beyond your job at the moment and what's going to make you advance. And that's exactly what I did. And so even though I was making $200 a week at 17 and I felt I was rich, I wanted to do better. So at the age of 19, I decided to open my own business. I had saved up enough money to start my own company at 19 years old. And that's actually what brought me to Hong Kong. Because I decided I was in the dress business, but I want to open up imports, because in Canada we had the unions, and unions are very, very strong, and I felt I wanted a world market. So I came to Hong Kong to import ladies' sweaters from Hong Kong to North America, to Canada and the U.S. Ocean Park was another story that 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, Disney was coming to Hong Kong, and Ocean Park was a homegrown park that was run in a very local way, and really everybody was worried. Government was worried because the park was losing money. Government didn't know what to do with it. Tung Chi-Wah, at that time, Mr. Tung was the chief executive, and it was my friend, and he called me one day and he said, Alan, you know, Disney's coming to Hong Kong. We don't know what to do with Ocean Park. It's losing money. Would you go and maybe take a look at it? And there's people say, let's close the park. And because, you know, and they're saying let's close the park because as Hong Kong style, the land is worth a lot of money. Overlooking Deepwater Bay, we can tear down the buildings and build more condominiums for those big developers that everybody hates, right? And so I said, CH, you're crazy. I don't know anything about theme parks. But here's something for you, because he said, but, you know, we don't have anybody. I'll say one thing about the chief executive at the time. You know, he got a lot of criticism and actually had to step down. But the one thing I say, he was very persistent. The good thing, he kept calling me 6 times. By the 6th time, I figured I'd better give him face. I said, okay, let me go and look at the park, because I'd never been to the park. My kids grew up in Ocean Park. I was a businessman. I didn't have time to go to the park. I never went inside. And so I said to him, let me go and look at it. And I went to the park. And the park was falling apart. The pavement was broken. The paint was peeling. There was a CEO at the time who was an American who was about to retire in a year, who was really beat up. Everybody's face, the staff, all had long faces because they knew Disney was coming. They didn't know if they would have a job. And they said to me, and I could tell, and they looked, and the chief executive at the time of a CEO of Ocean Park looked at me like, who's this guy from Lang Kwai Fong, you know, this nightlife guy coming to look at our park? And but I didn't, not knowing anything about the park, I knew one thing. I went on the cable car, and I saw that, what I call the billion-dollar view overlooking Deepwater Bay and Aberdeen. I thought, my God, right 5 minutes from Central, this is a gem. And he was complaining because he said, it's on a hillside, we're losing money, it's very expensive to operate, it's on a hillside, it's difficult, you know, and he was suggesting that we close the park and we move it to, if you are going to reopen it, because Disney's coming, we're better to move it to flat land. Either we wipe out the police training school, but don't tell the police, don't tell the police, we wipe out the police training academy, or we move it to Lantau near where Disney was. But then, me not knowing anything about theme parks, as I always said, you take a negative and make it into a positive. So I thought to myself, you know, if I move it to flat land, look at the view that Mother Nature gives us for free, that cable car view overlooking that mountain, that hillside. Yeah, it might be more difficult to operate, but if I move to flat land, I have to build fake mountains, fake water. There's not enough money in the world to replicate the view that Mother Nature gives you for free. So I thought, this is crazy. And so I said, no. I said, I called CH at the time, and I said, you know, CH, I'm really busy. You know, I said, I think the park is great, because I saw visions. Many people look at things, they see lumps up, you know, they see rubbish. I look at things, and I see beauty. You look beyond the skin. Look inside. I never look at just the outward appearance. Look in the body. Look in the heart. And so I looked inside, and I saw beauty there. And I thought to myself, yeah, the clothes just needs a paint job. Need to fix it a little bit. But I think we can, you know, we can do it. And I said to C.H. Tung at the time, I said, Mr. Tung, I said, you know, I'm really busy. I don't know anything about theme parks, but I don't think you should close the park. I don't think you should move the park. So I said, okay, CH, I'll take the job.